YouTube, how you doing? This video has been an absolute nightmare to make. Continuity, left the building ages ago, but I'm just going to go with it, put it all together, see what I come up with, and fingers crossed it works out. And the information is articulated well enough and clear enough, and everyone gets something out of it. So what's it all about? I'm sure you've seen in the media over the last couple of years all the various stories regarding mental health issues, either like celebrity or people, youths and that in general. There's been a lot of depression and all that chatted about, but no real talk of real solutions. And on top of all that, in a nutshell, I've dealt with a world of food allergies, ADHD, manic depression, anxiety, and all the headache that goes with all that for the last 20 plus years. And from what I've seen, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with life and would benefit from bits of information that I found out over the last few years. So as much of a nightmare struggle this video has been to make, and the fact that I hate talking to the camera like this, I felt sort of obligated to make this video and put a bit of a bright light at the end of a dark tunnel for people that are struggling with life. So yeah, this video is a big shout to all those dealing with mental health, physical health struggles in their lives, the sorts of people that have exhausted all the obvious avenues looking for help with their health. Whether you're suffering with depression, anxiety, anorexia, weight issues in general, post-traumatic stress disorder, alcoholism in whatever forms. Is there more than one form? ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, autism type conditions, degenerative conditions that doctors and that don't know the answer to. It's been given the runaround, test after test after test. Chances are it's all linked to the gut and the health of the gut and the bacteria in there. Because like Hippocrates said a couple of thousand years ago, and the Indian medicine teachings, Ayurvedic teachings from thousands and thousands of years ago, it's all saying all disease begins in the gut. Scientists even call our gut the second brain. On top of that, there's it's called a vagus nerve, and it runs from the gut to the brain, directly connecting the two. And then there's all the trillions of gut bacteria that all a symbiotic relationship with the body. They probably regulate or help out every function of the body in some way. So yeah, it's a big deal. And if you've consumed lots of alcohol, been through stress and depression, consumed some types of drugs, legal or otherwise, consumed junk and processed foods, chances are you've thrown your gut out of sync, and it's going to be causing problems, some worse than others. It could have been poor bacteria that's passed down from the mother at birth. That could have been like an underlying problem, and then everything else that I just listed just added to the problems, and everything's spiraled out of control. So what do you do if you think your gut is out of sync and it's causing health problems? I guess that all comes down to how well you listen to your body, how well you can research, and how strict you're willing to be with your diet. But ultimately, it comes down to how well or how open you are to thinking and reacting differently. Because at the end of the day, if you want to create a healthier, better you, then you need to change old ways of thinking and doing things to make that change that you want. to change your world. Easier said than done, I know, but it can be done. And I suppose that's the first bit of it, is start thinking, I can do this, I can do that. I suppose the trick is to small steps, little bit at a time. And then as soon as you start noticing yourself making these changes and slight improvements, then that's all going to aid in your recovery. But I suppose one of the first things to do in the greater scheme of things is to make sure the gut is producing enough stomach acid. I'm pretty sure there is a test out there for this. In my case, my acid reflux was a symptom of not having enough stomach acids, and so I used a product called Hydrozyme by Orthoplex to bring back the balance. Secondly, kill off any sort of overgrowth of bad bacteria using plant-based antibiotics, on top of biofilm disruptors that help break down the matrix or the protective coating of sort of the bad bacteria. If just after sort of tweaking the gut bacteria and give it a bit of a clean up and rebalance and that, there's a product by ATP Science called Gut Right, I highly recommend. Thirdly, once you've killed off the bad bacteria, or as you're killing them off, you need to replace the bad with the good. And there's some great products out in the market. There's some of them that I highly recommend. If you're things like if you're dealing with ADHD, or I don't know, if you just want to boost mental health a little bit, Lactobacillus reuteri has been shown to help a lot of that side of life, and as well as it having anti-aging or youthfulness benefits. There's a company called Garden of Life who do probiotics for mood as well as digestion. There's loads more out there, all depending on what your specific situation is. I mean, if you've got a case like Sibo, then obviously that's a lot more complicated, and definitely well worth a video on itself. On top of the gut bacteria thing playing with your brain and lives and that, there's a few other things worth bearing in mind if you're really struggling with life. And that's something called Pyroluria, and that goes by various other names as well. And something called a defective 5-MTHFR gene. And there's different variations of that, but it's all the same sort of thing. Also, some of the symptoms with that sort of contradicted my symptoms, so bear that in mind when researching it. To sum things up, I guess, the 5-MTHFR thing, that's stress, anger issues, from my experience anyway, and the Pyroluria is self-destructive or just destructive behaviour, concentration problems, ADHD type stuff. You can have both of the conditions or just one or the other. Just to add a bit more perspective on things, 42% of alcoholics have Pyroluria, and from my experience there's gut bacteria that feed on alcohol, so if you've got an overgrowth of that particular strain, chances are you have a really thirsty need for alcohol. And the 5-MTHFR thing, 98% of children with autism have this condition. I mean, you might have somebody with really mild ADHD, and they could have both conditions. You could have somebody with really bad Asperger's, and they still have just those two conditions. From my perspective, it seems everyone's different. It affects everyone slightly differently, all depending on, I guess, how much damage is done in the gut and other variables that we don't really know about at the minute. The good news is both conditions are treatable with specific vitamins, and they're easily tested for. I'll leave some links down in the bottom description thing, but at the end of the day, do your research. And the sort of last bit of the puzzle, well, one of the last bits of the puzzle is, again, it's damage done by alcohol, drugs, stress, all that sort of thing. But I think you can be born with it, and that's something that's sort of best summed up as leaky gut syndrome. Basically, the gut has holes in it that let nutrients through, and when these holes get too big, they let too much of the wrong stuff through, and it obviously causes inflammation in the body, leading to various illnesses. It all gets pumped through the brain, through the body, through the brain, causing your foggy head and concentration problems and that sort of thing. So once you've got all the different pieces of the puzzle all put together, and yes, I'm only focusing on what I've had to deal with, my experience. There could be other bits and pieces, but from what I gather, what's in this video is, I suppose, the more common or the bigger parts of the puzzle. I mean, thyroid conditions, various other things could be a factor. But once you've got it all sorted, the last thing left to do is heal the gut. And to do that, you use something called the GAPS diet, gut and psychology syndrome. The diet was derived from the specific carbohydrate diet created by Dr. Sidney Valentine Hust to naturally treat chronic inflammatory conditions in the digestive tract as a result of damaged gut lining. Dr. Natasha McBride, the girl behind the GAPS diet, she's a neurologist and dietitian, nutritionist. She took things a step further, creating the GAPS diet. She basically made it even more restrictive, removing foods that are damaging to the gut and its gut flora and replacing it with nutrient-dense, easily digestible foods that basically give the gut a chance to heal. The key part to all this is something called bone broth. Bone broth is full of enzymes that help heal the gut. The video that got me into all this GAPS diet business is something called Food is the Best Medicine. I'll leave a link to it in the box below, but at the end of the day, do your own research and listen to that gut instinct. It will guide you. One thing I will say is when doing the GAPS diet, you have to sort out your gut bacteria first, otherwise you're taking away all the mess in the gut. And if you've got a small bacterial overgrowth causing you problems, then they'll jump into this free space and make it their home, creating a condition called Sibo, and it's an absolute nightmare to deal with. So anything and everything you can to avoid this, you have to do. Right, it's the last part of the video. I've said it before, I'll say it again. All thought, all action is creative energy. If you change the way you're thinking, you'll change your world. There's tons to say on all this, about how our thoughts and words that we use interact with our DNA and the world around us, how you can't have the positive without the negative, how negatives can be a catalyst for a positive change, how we learn the most from negative experiences, or how you're a meat robot with a biological supercomputer on your shoulders, powered by a spirit having an experience that's able to be reprogrammed using meditation and positive thought. And if you're thinking meditation is a waste of time, then perhaps make this your first path of research. There's plenty of science out there to back it all up, but for now I'll point you in the direction of a couple of books just to get you started, and leave some links in the box below. But like I say, if there's enough interest on a particular subject, I'll make a video on it and hopefully answer some questions. The first book I'll mention is a book by Rhonda Bryan called The Secret. It basically underlines the idea that if you're always thinking negatively, you're going to attract negative situations, negative people into your life, and then just end up on that vicious circle. It's the same with problems. If you're always focusing on problems or issues and that, you'll always find them. They're always going to be coming into your life and creating a headache. When you focus on possibilities, then you're more likely to be finding opportunities in your life, and all the positive and funness that goes with it. The second book is How to Heal the Mind, Rewire the Brain by Pat Kyle. This book's a bit more, or a lot more focused on how the stress interacts with the brain and body, and how the brain is set up to rewrite new ways of reacting to things. The book comes with a few meditations, and they're a massive help and highly recommended. For people where emotional issues are more deeply ingrained, perhaps just gone on for a lot longer, it's worth bearing in mind that thoughts and emotions can be addictive. When we get in these negative mindsets, react negatively to things, chemicals are given off in the brain, and these can bond with opiate receptors and create this addictive behaviour. Subconsciously we create these negative situations to get this fix of chemicals. Obviously all helping to create these vicious cycles we end up getting ourselves in. The trick is to start catching your thoughts. When you start having these thoughts and getting in that mindset, the earlier or sooner you stop yourself from having these thoughts, you start catching your thoughts. Because obviously the more you think about something, the more you fuel it, and the stronger these thoughts get. To help get you out of this rut, I highly recommend something called rapid transformational therapy. A few people that I know have tried it and it's been very successful. Well worth doing some research and finding more about if you think it's something that would help you. At the very least, you want to be taking small steps to make these changes. Next time you've had a crap day at work or whatever, take yourself for a walk around the park or woods or something. It's great for changing that vibration of your body and creating a more positive mindset. Start small and carry on working on yourself. It takes commitment, it takes effort, but you can do it. The trick is don't fear change. I mean, how freaking stupid is that, fearing change? And obviously you ain't stupid, you're a beautiful, amazing human being that's capable of everything that you want out of this life. Just don't let all the negatives that you've been through define you. Work through it, and like I said before, all negatives can be a catalyst for a positive change. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. If you're suffering with things and done your research and still not sure on the best course of action, go and see an integrative doctor or a naturopath, and they'll be able to guide you on the rest of your journey to getting sorted. But always do your own research. I hope people found this helpful and food for thought, and hopefully some of you found it a bit of a bright light at the end of a dark tunnel. But either way, please like and subscribe and share to anyone else you think might benefit from it. Peace out, and I'll see all you beautiful people soon.